I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Cynthia Whitaker, Interim President at Greater Nashua Mental Health. We had the pleasure of first meeting Dr. Whitaker at an opioid task force in Nashua, New Hampshire, and have since been captivated by her work serving the community of that city. She provides a powerful message of the importance of connection as it relates to community mental health, and we are grateful for her presence this evening.
Thank you, Matt. Since I was young, due to some things that I experienced, I've been an achiever. Well, maybe an overachiever. From the outside, that may have appeared to be solely a positive thing, but one consequence of this has been that I grew up being a doer. I live by to-do lists and check boxes. Anybody out there feel me? I learned the hard way that this didn't allow me to be at my best. And I've had to work each and every day to not fall back into the trap of the check boxes, to get out of the way of just going through the motions, to let go of the allure of the neatness of the check boxes and step instead into the messiness and the blessings of relationships. In my work at Greater Nashua Mental Health, as a psychologist, I've seen many other people who, just like me, lived by the checkbox. People come into treatment asking, what do I do to improve? They see a success story and ask, how do I do it just like them? What did they do? Where did they go to treatment? What kind of medication did they use? As if they could create a recipe for how to get better. While it's natural for us to think that there's a magical answer out there that maybe is the same for everyone, it's just not true. It's not true of a diet plan, it's not true of medications, and it's certainly not true of recovery. You don't find recovery on your own, in isolation, with a checkbox plan. Recovery is not found by a recipe. First, I go to treatment for 28 days, then I go to an IOP, then I take these meds. That is not how we find recovery. Maybe you'll find some short-term gains, but without connection, without community, it is impossible to find long-term recovery. Have you seen the meme where there's two stick figures, where one person has this darkness in them that maybe represents sadness and another person has light? And this cool meme shows the person with the light coming alongside, and they take a little of their darkness away. Have you seen that meme? Well, I actually don't particularly care for it, because I think what often happens is when we're in that one-to-one space, that person who comes alongside takes some of that darkness, yes, gives some of their light, but then maybe finds some darkness on their own, and there's just not enough light. Maybe as a family member, you've seen this, right? You've felt that give and give and give your light and try to give your love, but one-on-one, it's not enough. So I imagine that meme, instead of a one-on-one, being a bunch of stick figures coming around that person with that darkness, with that sadness, with that addiction, with that life that's full of despair. And them coming together around that person, arm in arm, multiplies their individual light. Then they have enough light to give to that person so that nobody has to feel that despair anymore. That's the power of connection. That's the power of community. Notice there are no check boxes. There's no doing in there. There's just coming together, making community, making connection. Often I find that people in treatment, what they would do, they wouldn't even go to a person with light. They would go to another person that was feeling just as down as them. And so instead of the light multiplying, the darkness would multiply. That's what I think Johann is saying is happening in our communities now. We're so isolated and so separate, and the only place we find connection is with people who are as sad or as upset as we are. We need to bring each other together and surround one another to multiply that light. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is all well and good, Dr. Cynthia, but what can I do? What can I do? Maybe there is something to do. Maybe somebody needs to be given information about treatment or given a ride to treatment, shown where to find Revive Recovery, who you're going to hear about from a little later tonight. But I'm here to remind you today that doing is not enough. It might get the process started, it might bring us to short term, but really it's about the being and the connection, much more than it is of making a list of what to do. So what do? You support, you walk alongside, you listen, you have empathy. You find support for yourself, so you're not the only person trying to come alongside. Maybe it's treatment for family members, maybe it's the recovery community, maybe it's Al-Anon or a family-to-family program. You don't fall into the checkbox trap. You don't think to yourself, if only I could get them here, if only I could do that, if only. There is no if only. What you do is you start with the messiness of love. We ask ourselves, how might we create a caring community? How might I show support? How might I show that I care? If you yourself are the person that's struggling and feeling like that person in the meme that has darkness within inside them, don't isolate. Don't be afraid to reach out to other people. You matter. We see you. We've been there. We care. We're all in this together, and if we come together, we can walk with one another in that messiness of love, in that messiness of relationship. That's how we get through this, not with a recipe and check boxes. That's what I once thought would get me to where I needed to be in life. And as soon as I let go of that, the blessings began to flow, because it is all about collaboration and relationship and where we're going next. So tonight, how might we make this not only about the doing of the lighting of candles, about the doing of saying, here we are, let's remember and read some names. Let's also make tonight about being loving, being encouraging, being supporting, speaking life and hope to one another, finding the connection with those that are here with us in memory of those that we've lost. Thank you.